Good morning. So it is 9 a.m. here on the East Coast, USA, and it is time for our webinar with BrandPort. The speaker is not in the webinar room yet, so Mr. Prakash from BrandPort, the CEO. For some reason, he is not with us yet. I did send him a reminder, and we'll probably try to call him in a few minutes. But the plan for today is to provide students with some feedback on the work they've done so far. And we have two sources of basically work samples so far. One is the early track. So BrandPort is one of the most popular companies in both tracks. And in the early track, we have quite a few submissions already. So the plan is to take a quick look at some of those reports and provide some quick feedback on what we see in those submissions. And then also, obviously, every week you submit the students who are in the late track. You submit the weekly deliverables. And again, we would like to talk a little bit about the quality of work so far, interesting ideas, common ideas, and then maybe give you some feedback. Here we have Samantha, who is one of the coaches this semester. And so she's been evaluating your work every week and reviewing it. And so she will also say a few words about what she's seen so far and what her impressions are. And then we will try to give you some feedback and suggestions for how you can improve your work. So for the early track students, that obviously will be too late. But for the late track students, you can still use the feedback and suggestions in the remaining 2-3 weeks of the project. And hopefully they will allow you to do a better job, write a better report. And I think I'm going to start probably just with showing some of the submissions from the early track and just providing my general comments, perhaps not so much on the content of the reports, but more on the form. The thing is, and let me share my screen so you can see what I'm talking about here. So there are many teams working on reports in general, but particularly when we talk about such popular companies like BrandPort. Samantha, I just wanted to confirm you can see my screen, right? Just making sure that it's all.
Yes, I can see it. You're sounding a little grainy on the microphone, but I can see your screen.
It will work fine.
Okay.
So one of the big challenges with business proposals, and not only within X culture, but anytime in your life when you will be applying maybe for funding or for grants or for jobs for that matter too, here is what you will be kind of up against. In many cases, it's not even the ideas that you present. It is not even the resume that you have. It is the challenge of kind of breaking through the clutter. So there are many other submissions, many other people applying for the job, many other people submitting their business proposals, grant applications, funding applications. So whatever you're asking for, chances are there are other people asking for the same thing. And so whoever is making the decisions whether or not you should get the money or you should get the job or you should win the competition, they will likely see something like this. So this is, for example, here the early track, the smaller, much smaller early track, and you see how many reports this particular company already has here. In the late track, we will have like 3 times as many. So we're talking about 150 to 100 reports total. If you think about the number of pages that is, well, if it's on average 30-35 pages per report and you have 100 of them, so that would be like 3,000 and a half pages. And if it's 200 reports, that's like 5,000-6,000 pages. So it's pretty much impossible for the person, for the CEO, for the investor, for the person who, I don't know, HR specialist who is interviewing you, to look and read every single word and see how wonderful you are. And so this is where it becomes extremely important to present yourself, your work in a proper form, so that when the person looks at it, well, the person doesn't have to fall in love with it, but at the very least, the person has to not be repelled by the poor quality of your presentation. And so what happens in many cases, and I've been on the search committees a number of times, I've reviewed many grant applications. What happens when you have like 100 and 120 applications? In many cases, your first kind of round of review is trying to find why you would like to dismiss some of those applications. So you're trying to remove, to delete some of the applications from the file so that you have a more manageable number to work with. And at that stage, in many cases, it's just general basic impressions. So the person will open the applications, defines the reports one by one, take a quick look, and if there is something that doesn't look right there, then you're out. So the person will probably not even read the rest. And I'll just open a few random application submissions from the early track, just to give you an idea of what they look like. So for example, here is team one, and it looks very nice. So it's not too bright, not too noisy, has some interesting graphics. It's clever to provide the names of the team members with sort of pictures. I guess maybe even real pictures would have been nice. The only thing that I wish was on this report on the title page is who did what. Yes, for the client, for the company in this particular case, it doesn't matter. So I don't care what specific layer of the Silva did. But for me as an instructor, I would like to know which section was written by which student. And the reason for that is that maybe somebody, like the team, will not do a very good report, but somebody on the team could have been actually quite good. And if my student happens to be, for example, Lyra, I would like to know what exactly she did. So even if the report overall is bad, if I see that her section is good, maybe I'll still give her a higher grade. Or the other way around, maybe she didn't do anything. And so if she didn't, if she hasn't participated at all, maybe you should tell me that. So again, even if the team did a good job as an instructor, I might want to give her a low grade just because it's she didn't do much. And so again, they have a nice table of contents. Probably I wouldn't waste too much time on this, but still useful to know what's in it. And then the most important part of the report, which is the executive summary. The reason it is very important, again, once the reviewer, the CEO, the HR specialist, the professor have gone through the initial round of dismissing the bad submissions, like really bad submissions. The second round will be they will look at the executive summary. For about 90% of you, maybe even 95% of you, this is all that reader will read. And again, the reason for that is, as I said, is not because I'm lazy as an instructor and I don't want to read all your 200 wonderful submissions. And by the way, I do have about 150 students, so it's about 150 reports for me to read. So it's not that I'm lazy or the CEO is lazy, it's just too much paper. Just to, again, share with you to kind of convey the gravity of the situation and issue. One of the semesters a few years ago, I thought I would read those reports over Christmas break as I was going to somewhere skiing or something. And I asked my graduate assistant to print out those reports for me so I can take them with me. And so my graduate assistant goes to the printer and prints and comes back, I don't know, like in an hour or two, and brings me the reports. And so 150 reports, we are talking about like a foot of paper, like literally, like 25, 30 centimeters thick pile. So obviously, even if I did nothing for 2 weeks and was just reading those reports, I mean, it probably will take me more than, my Christmas break if I wanted to read the whole thing. So the only thing I can do, or the CEO can do, is to look at the executive summaries. And then again, your job is to present your ideas very, very clearly in that stage or at that stage, with the hopes that they will be compelling, interesting, engaging enough that the CEO then say, okay, oh, this is really interesting. I want to learn more. And then we'll flip pages to that section, like for example, pricing strategy. Okay, that's interesting. Okay, maybe I want to read more, and goes to that section. So again, I'm not going to get into details here. I will only say that I do like this executive summary. And the reason I like it is because it uses bullet lists, and bullet lists always allow me to quicker, faster scan the content of the report. I will show you a few more reports, and you will see that sometimes it's just plain text, and it's impossible to find where one section ends and the other one starts, where it's a point about one topic versus another. So here, at least, I see company analysis, and I wish it was a little bit more kind of in a SWOT format, so I can see right away the weaknesses and the strengths. But even this way, it's fine. In the chosen market, I see that it's France right away. That's very good. Specific with Paris, that's very good. And they give me a few more cities, so nice. I see right away what you're talking about. Marketing strategy, again, a little too much text. I wish it was kind of first word tells me what specific strategy you want or recommend, and then an explanation. But again, I can navigate it. And the pricing strategy, so not bad. And then as you can see, the report itself is very nice and neat. So I clearly marked sections. some graphics, gives me some, if not information, then at least allows my eyes to kind of relax for a second and look at something rather than, just plain text and pictures. So I would say this report is very appealing, looks very, very good. Let me take a quick look at other ones, and let's see what we have here as other examples. So let's do report number 2. Oops. So again, nice title, some pictures. India tells me right away which country they recommend me to move in. I see the list of the participants. Again, I wish it also said who did what, but that's good enough. Oh, actually, they do have a separate page for that. That's wonderful. I guess I would have just added it as an extra column, but this way it's also perfectly fine. So if my student would happen to be, I don't know, Masoon Agarwal, I know that that's what the student did, and I would be able to, as an instructor, to take a closer look at that specific section, perhaps, and maybe adjust my student's grade, specifically based on what who did. The only thing I would say here, again, I'm glad that the students told me who did what, but I'm not happy with the way they distributed the workload. So the mistake that the team made was they decided who does what section, and then presumably hoped that everybody will do his or her section, and they will just copy and paste it into one single report. It does look like this is what happened. It seems that for them it did work. But if your team uses this strategy, more often than not, at least one of the students will not do his or her section at all, and you will not find out about that until like literally a few days before the final deadline. And 2, there will be some people who will do a lousy job. So they will write something, but it will not be good. Maybe there will be some plagiarism, maybe it will be just simply weak, not making sense. And there may be also some people who will work in a very different style. And so what will happen is 2 days before the deadline, you got all the submissions, you realize what is missing. You don't have the time to redo it, so you have to really, really fast do something, like put something quickly together to basically put something in place of that missing section. Second, you will realize that some are very weak, and again, no time to redo. And then they will still be quite different. And so when you will be flipping through the report pages, you will see that it's not consistent. So some sections are in one format, style, language, others are very different, so it doesn't look very professional. So there's always a much better idea to distribute the workload by the function. So for example, maybe, I don't know, Sonia, maybe she's a native speaker, so maybe she should do the copy editing. And maybe Masoon is wonderful at, I don't know, research. Maybe he should do some search for relevant data, publications, analysis online. And maybe Maria is very good at analysis, so maybe she should then take all the information that Masoon prepares and then kind of analyze it, select what's most relevant, and put it together. And things like that. So at the very least, if you use a method like this one, where everybody's responsible for one section, what you should do is check each other's work frequently. So if somebody's falling behind the schedule, or if somebody's not doing a good job, you want to be able first to catch it early, and 2, provide your input even if the person is doing a good job. Chances are other people will have some new ideas, interesting suggestions, and you want to provide those suggestions so that they can incorporate them. 2 heads are better than 1, right? So 6 heads are better than 2. So don't waste that opportunity. And the rest of this report is fine. I like the SWOT analysis, so easy to see right away which specific section of the SWOT analysis you're referring to. Some graphics like that too. So tables are always good, easy to read. And apparently this company found a large list of potential clients, which is very important. Again, nice table format, links. I wish the company also provide, oh, I think that's competition, so that's fine. I thought those are potential clients, in that case, names and contact numbers. But if it's only competition, I suppose that's not good. So let's take a look at a couple more. Let's take maybe this from the larger team members, and then we'll give Sam a chance to talk about what she's seen so far. So again, BrandPort, nice list of the team members. A little hard to see the names. Probably should have been aligned on the left, or maybe use a bullet list, but fine. I like that they specifically said who did what. And like, for example, I see this particular student here who did not participate. and it says here right away that the student did not participate. Again, as an instructor, I would like to see that. Nice executive summary, bullet list, easy to see right away what we're talking about. So it's simple, no graphics, maybe perhaps too much text for my taste, but still nice and easy to read, and perhaps without that text, not too many distractions. So maybe there is some charm in that as well. All right, so I'm going to stop here. And I see we have a few students watching online, and I'll check if we got any questions by email. Sam, would you like to go ahead and maybe provide a quick review of the most common suggestions you've seen so far, and maybe your comments on the quality of that work, and maybe your suggestions for improving it?
Yeah, I can go ahead and do that. So just to kind of start with, one thing I've seen is that a lot of the teams are suggesting very similar countries. So if you're going to, just be aware that, like Dr. Tara said, you're in competition with everyone else. So support students out for good reasons, especially when you're competing based on countries. In terms of quality of work, from what I've seen, most of the teams look really good. I'm not directly working with them, so this is more of just what I've seen over the past couple of days. But everything looks to be pretty good. I don't know, honestly.
If I can say a few words about the country. So you mentioned that the countries are different in most cases. And I'm actually looking here right away. Just 1 second. I will do a quick analysis of the most commonly suggested countries. So
from what I've seen, India is the most commonly suggested country.
Well, looking at the early track, so I just 1 more second. I got the data here. So the most popular countries are India and the United States. Mm-hmm. And then there are all kinds of other countries, so a total of 24 countries suggested by the 47 teams from the early track. So we expect about 150 teams in the late track, maybe a little bit more. And so I suspect the distribution of the yes, it is actually the late track, the distribution. So in the early track, we had even more teams. So, but in any case, I don't think there is much competition as far as the specific country. So meaning that the teams are not competing with one another in terms of the country choices. So yes, if everybody ends up suggesting the same country, I suppose that's fine. The big challenge here, or the task here, will be to explain why your choice is a good one. And so in many cases, the company will go by basically, whoever makes the most compelling reason. I see some other countries that are suggested so far are Brazil, Chile, China, France, Germany, Ghana. So we have a good mix. Kenya, South Korea, Morocco, Singapore. So we have a good mix here. As I said, the important thing here is to make a compelling argument and explain why you think that would be the best country. And another thing I would say about the market choices. Sometimes our research shows that students recommend the countries that are not necessarily the most economically viable, but are the countries that the students themselves are either in or like. So like, for example, France always is a popular country for any market. And we suspect one of the reasons could be because France has this kind of positive image, or Switzerland for that matter. So it's a small market, it's not always necessarily the best one, but students love Switzerland. It's a kind of cool image country. And so in many cases, they would recommend that, even though it may not be the best market. There is lots of competition there. Perhaps regulations may be a little tougher and things like that. At the same time, however, ever people recommend countries like, I don't know, maybe Congo or maybe, I don't know, Russia. So they have not necessarily the best image. But in many cases, they may be a viable option, especially when there is not much competition. And so that's just something that the students might want to keep in mind and kind of go by where I can make the most money, as opposed to which one I like or maybe no for that matter. And no matter which one you choose, it's important to do a good overview of the country and country analysis. But again, looking at the reports I've seen so far, what happens in some cases, students would literally copy and paste almost entire Wikipedia articles and they would just dump in that section anything and everything they can find about the country. Religion, population change, GDP per capita. So some of those could be relevant, but not necessarily all of those things are relevant. And so what you end up providing is pages and pages of information that, one, easy to find, in many cases common knowledge, and in many cases not even relevant. I mean, who cares what the main religion is in Morocco if you're trying to provide, I don't know, Wi-Fi services? Maybe people should care, maybe the company should care about their religion, but then explain how and why. Maybe, I don't know, clients with some religious views are more prone to use, I don't know, Wi-Fi tracking services. But if not, then don't even mention that. Why do we need that? So focus on the things that the company must know in order to succeed in that market, and skip everything else. It's better to have one page of hugely relevant information rather than have 20 pages of just general information about the country. Anyway,
Sorry, no, just to go on the flip side of that, though, just want to make sure that you do provide some background information for the market. Going through the submissions, a lot of them either say, I chose this market because I live here, or they have nothing written there. So while you don't want to go crazy with information, make sure that there is some amount of information there to support your analysis other than, I live here. So that's another big thing I'm seeing.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have anything else?
Nothing solid that I've noticed trend-wise.
I did read some of the reports, so let me see if I can also review some of the common things that I've seen, good and bad. Just 1 second. I do have some notes here. So I'll get to that in a second. All right, let me just open my notes. All right, so here are my general impressions about some of the things I've seen so far. And again, those of you, I see a number of people have joined us in a few last minutes. So for some reason, the presenter did not join the webinar, and I haven't received any response either. So we sent it the reminders, but I don't know, maybe some technical difficulties, because at the very least, I would have expected an email. So what we're doing here is looking at the submissions we have so far, both from the early track as well as from the weekly submissions, and just trying to provide some comments and suggestions on what we've seen so far in terms of the feedback, in terms of the submissions that you provided. And so we talked about the markets, the most popular markets. Everything looks more or less fine there, other than this. As I said, sometimes I see information about the market that may be interesting, but it's either it doesn't look to be relevant to the specific product, or at the very least, it's not explained why it's relevant. So maybe somewhere deep in your mind, you know why it is important to know if the population is growing or not. Maybe you know if it's important, or why is it important to have, like for example, Gini, income inequality measures, things like that. If so, explain why the company needs to know it. And ideally, in the company, in the market description, provide only the points that you later use in your marketing strategy, HR strategy, pricing strategy sections, entry mode. So for example, if you say that we recommend Brazil, and Brazil has a huge income inequality, and it has some rich people and some very poor people. And you talk about that Gini coefficient for the country. And then later on, when you talk about the pricing strategy, you say, and we believe the price should be higher because there is a smaller but still sizable population who are very, very rich. In that case, yes, I like it. I see how it's relevant. I understand why you provide it. But if you simply mention that, 25% of the population are, I don't know, such and such religion, or speak this language, or whatever else, and never ever mention that point, that reference, that fact in your strategy description, then I'd say just delete it. If you don't even mention it in, how to use it when you develop those particular, strategies, tactics, I don't see how it's relevant. Or if it is relevant, then do use it in that section. So that's on the market. Now, when it comes to marketing, again, this is what I've seen so far. Not bad overall, but I'd say many submissions are somewhat superficial. So what I didn't see very much is the details on how exactly you propose the company should be marketed. Like, for example, almost all teams say something about online social media promotion. Hardly anything so far, and I'm hoping that's because it's not the final submissions, what I see in the weekly submissions. But I'm still not entirely happy that I don't see enough details. Simply saying advertise through social media, Facebook, Twitter, it's not enough. I have no doubt that the company has thought about that many times. The challenge here is not to think about, oh, let's advertise online. How do we not think about that? The challenge is how do we do it? And so what I wish I saw more is if you name specific channels, like for example, let's say Facebook, and then you say, and I believe you should do it, let's say, for example, for advertisement on Facebook. There are all kinds of things you can do on Facebook. You can just simply build a community, perhaps, talk about your company. You can hope that people will just watch it. So without paid advertisement, you can place paid ads. There are different types of ads in Facebook. There are like 4 different types they support now. They can also post, or you can also advertise through video, promotional videos. So explain to me which ones I should use. And another thing that I wish to see in Facebook, tell me which audience I should select. Again, if you did some research on how to do advertisement on Facebook, you have to, or you have a chance to specify not only how many people you would like to see your ad, but also who those people are, what interests they have, age profile, country, location, things like that. You can select all kinds of things. There are like literally dozens of different criteria by which you can specify your audience yourself. And again, I wish you provided that. You said, okay, we need to advertise to people in this location, with these interests, of this age, I don't know, whatever else needs to be there. So that becomes actionable, that becomes practical, and I would like to see that. Some calculations of how much it will cost me. So when Facebook has this dynamic pricing, so depending on the choice of the audience that you specify, it may be more expensive, can be less expensive. But specify. Let's say you want to show it to 1 million people in this country, people of this demographics and stuff like that. Add that, and then see how much Facebook will quote you and include that price. So for me as a company owner, I would like to see that. That's that's something I really need. And hardly any team, in fact, I don't think I've seen a single team that will go this far. It's not hard to do, just kind of like literally 20, 30 minutes. It's easy. And then obviously we have a separate section on the late track where you will provide a flyer. And again, I haven't seen many yet, but I'm hoping there will be more soon. So again, I want to see what I would put in that ad. You know that there are some rules. For example, if you're looking at Facebook, there are some rules how those flyers have to be designed. Like for example, text cannot take more than 20% of the picture. And so for me, it may be hard to say everything I want to say in those few words. So provide suggestions, show me. And better yet, explain your logic. So you don't have to design the whole thing. Maybe give me a quick sketch, but give me the principles that you recommend that I use when I design my ad. So all those details are very important, and that's where the value is. Simply saying advertise online or send emails to all potential customers, not very usable. It's a good idea, but it's so superficial that it's not useful. Yes, by the way, many people said send emails to business owners. And if you want to do it right, first tell me where I can find the contacts of those business owners who potentially can use my BrandPort Wi-Fi services. How will I do it? Should I go to the yellow pages and look for every restaurant in town? Is there a way, perhaps maybe some sort of like a mailing list where they have maybe some sort of like a group where they hand out? So if so, give me the link to that group. Tell me how I can post a message via that mailing list or in that Facebook group or in that closed group, whatever they use, the platform, and tell me what I should say there. I have no doubt that they receive a lot of ads through those channels, and probably most of those ads go directly to the recycling bin. And I would like to stand out. And so if you have some suggestions for how to phrase my ad so that it becomes more appealing and doesn't get deleted right away, that's where I would say, oh, that's interesting. Thank you so much. So far from what I see, not many teams do it. So they don't go far enough. So they would give me all kinds of information, but not necessarily all those details. I did said that in the company industry analysis, Here, most teams do a wonderful job. So most teams provide a good overview of the competition. Many would provide, different prices than the competition charges, different pricing strategies, different services they provide. A few teams I saw in the early track would have a nice table where they would have like top 10 competitors. And then they would have, characteristics, like price and features and support. And would have like check marks who provides what. And so that provides me an easy way to see right away how we compare to the competition, how different companies are different from one another. And so that was, I thought, was a clever way to, kind of analyze the company's competitive position. So many teams did it, and I thought that was very effective. When it comes to the operations, things like legal requirements, finances, HR, I haven't seen much yet because the late track has only started working on that. And in the early track, it was not as prominently discussed or required. But again, from what I've seen so far at the individual submissions level, the legal side, most people didn't do a good job other than, well, maybe they did a good job because there is really not much you can say, but most teams just say that, this country may require that the data are, stored only in anonymous format, or need to be stored on servers in the country itself, or needs to be handled in a certain way. So that's good enough. That's probably all you have to say. But again, there are a few companies, a few teams that took it a little further, and they did talk about things like, for example, what should go in the contract with the provider, or perhaps what could be or which features can be provided and which ones may be a little bit too much according to those regulations. And so that's, again, where the main value comes from, because those little things take time to find. And so if you would like to spend that time and you find them and you show them to you, that's where I will be happy and I will say, okay, that's helpful. That's something I didn't know and would have not found on my own. Finance is relatively easy, so payment options. I did notice it was interesting that in some countries, the banking regulations are such that it's not easy to pay overseas. And so a few teams did say, okay, we recommend, for example, Congo or Kenya as a market. And one of the challenges there will be that the monthly subscriptions that clients will pay to BrandPort, it will be difficult for them to make the payments overseas, so to pay to Dubai. And so they would even provide some regulations and step-by-step instructions for how those payments can be made. So you have to go and get permission from the central bank, and then you have to pay, and then there will be certain hurdles like documents that you need to submit, but it's still doable, and this is how you do it. So that was useful. That's something I didn't know. I found that to be interesting. And finally, HR. So there were a number of teams that were suggesting that you should hire local representatives. So people will literally go hotel to hotel, restaurant to restaurant, and pitch, provide, try to sell BrandPort Wi-Fi services. It was very compelling when the teams explained why they recommend that. They say that in this culture, an email or an ad on Facebook will not be enough to convince the person to start using the service. It's a new service. It is something that people don't quite understand. And so it is necessary to sit down and talk to the potential clients about the services, the features, so that they go, aha, I didn't even know it's possible. Yes, I think I want it. And they think the only way to do it is, face-to-face contact. And so some teams suggest that maybe you should schedule like webinars or calls where you would explain it on the phone. But then they say the language differences could be a problem. So the host company operates primarily in English. Being in Dubai, Arabic probably would be an option, and having the Indian connection, maybe some Indian languages like Hindu or other local languages in India would be an option, but not much else. And so for some countries, it may be necessary to have a native speaker. And so they feel that hiring people locally would be the best way to go. And it makes total sense, perfect sense. Nice explanations for those who did them. But then it becomes more challenging when it comes to where to hire those people, where to put the ads, and how to hire them, how much to offer them, what structure of compensation should be offered, and things like that. And so most teams do a decent job. So they provide links to the websites where you can place the ads to hire the people. They say a few words as to what you should ask in the interview, kind of what you should look for when you try to hire those people. Some teams also say how much they should be paid in terms of the average salaries, but not many teams give me much about the structure of the compensation. So I assume a fixed salary is not always the best way to go. Perhaps maybe some sort of commission-based rewards should be part of the compensation package. And if so, give me those ideas. Tell me what percentage it should be. How should it be paid? Would it be based on the number of clients signed up, or would it be a percentage from the monthly subscription fees? Because if it's a one-time payment on the sign-up, what if the client drops out after a month? So again, not good. So I'm not saying that one method is better than another. I'm just saying that that's where you should give us enough details. And that's the information that is more useful than just simply saying, hire locals, they will go from restaurant to restaurant and find clients. Yes, but how? Yes, how would I compensate? How would I manage them? So those details are very useful. Anyway, I'm going to stop here. Sam, do you have anything else? Any other observations, comments, suggestions?
Nothing outside of what you said, but I would like to say that in terms of coming up with costs, especially for social media marketing, that's been one of the biggest things I've noticed is that no one really has provided potential costs for that. And that's something I know I repeatedly write as a comment back. Even if it's not the correct price or you're off on your estimation, at least it gives the client an idea of what they're looking at. So for me, that's been one of the biggest things. Another thing is in terms of potential customers or potential partners, any of that kind of stuff. If you're providing the contact information, I would kind of like to see maybe a short summary on who that person is or why they should be contacting them.
Have you tried contacting them on your own, right?
Yeah, and if you've tried contacting them.
Contacted, my impression is that in many cases what the teams did, they literally just did some quick Google search. We talk, like for example, restaurant owner and say, okay, contact this person. In the conversation, you will find out something that you will then be able to kind of use to adjust the script of the conversation with the next client. Maybe, these are the questions that the potential clients usually ask. These are the answers we recommend you provide. Or you anticipate those questions, and so make sure to include that in the intro so you don't have to worry about it and, get the conversation run smoothly.
And then one final thing is on the brochures. I know a lot of people have made comments on the weekly comments that they can't attach the documents, and they want to try and be able to attach those brochures.
Oh, yeah, I didn't miss that. So it should be easy. It's an attached question. I mean, attached file question. But yes, if for some reason you were not able to attach your file, no worries. As long as you include it in the final report, so we'll definitely see it in grade. So no worries about that.
Yeah, I was just going to suggest that if you can't necessarily attach it, maybe just write up a short description of what it looks like, so we have an idea that you are moving forward on that as well.
Yeah, good idea.
So.
Yeah. Sam, how many people, was it like a few people or everybody said we could not attach it?
From what I saw, everyone said they couldn't attach it. They said there was nowhere to attach it.
Maybe there was some technical error with the survey. Okay, I'll definitely look into that. So,
okay.
Yeah. Okay, somehow I didn't miss that part. All right, so we're pretty much out of time. I think we're going to stop here. We have another webinar in 15 minutes with a different company. So if you have any questions for the students, just send them our way to admin@excelsior.org. And we will either provide the answers from the frequently asked questions database, or if it's a new question, we'll forward it to the company and ask for the feedback. And yeah, so stay in touch, and if anything comes up, just let us know. Good luck with your work, and yeah, I guess in a few weeks we will see your final submissions. All right, thank you so much, Sam. So I'm not sure if you're staying for the next webinar. So I'm going to pause here for a while, so a few minutes, and in 15 minutes we have a meeting with Dudley. So All right, so we should be starting in a minute now. For some reason, we don't have the speakers in the webinar room yet. I did get an email from them a few minutes ago confirming that they would be participating. So my hope is that it's just a few minutes that we have to wait for them. So I see Nicola, and I know Samantha is here as a coach and will provide some information. Nicola, I assume you're one of the students, right? Nicola, can you hear me? Hello, hello?
I can hear you, if that counts.
So the sound is here. So Nicola, you may not be, well, he doesn't hear me, so I guess this will work. So I'll share the screen, and if the sound is not working, what you have to do is to go to settings and select the speaker that is a different one than you have selected now. And that's, probably the reason for you not working. But anyway, I see that our speakers are here. Nice to see you.
Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning. So I guess we are ready to start, right? So you can hear me, I can hear you, right?
Yes.
Right. Wonderful. All right. So I guess we are live already. So we will do a quick introduction in a second. For now, I would like to quickly state the purpose of this meeting, and we will see how tightly we will be able to stick with the plan. So we already had one webinar with the company, with Dudley's, and in that webinar, the focus was on introducing the company. So we already know a little bit about the company, the history, the products, and things like that. Today, the goal is to receive some feedback from the company on the work the students have completed so far. And so we have a good number of teams from the early track that chose Dudley's. In fact, it was the largest, most popular group. And so we have those reports already in the folder submitted. And then we have many more teams working on the project, on the company's challenge in the late track. And so they still have about 3 weeks left before they submit the reports. And so our hope is that by looking at the work done so far and receiving some feedback from the company, we will be able to provide the students who are still working on their challenges with useful information so they can use it in the remaining few weeks and develop better reports before they submit the final proposals. And so I know there are a few students who are planning to join us and share what they have. I do have the reports from the early track that have already been submitted, and if we have the time, maybe I'll show a few of them and just get quick comments. And then we also have some coaches here, and apparently already one student who hopefully will be able to talk a little bit about what they've seen in the submissions or what their teams have to say, and get maybe some feedback that way. But before we get into all of that, maybe let's do a quick introduction one more time, even though we've done it before, but there may be some viewers this time who didn't attend the first time. So who you are, and just maybe a couple of words about the company, just for those who may not be familiar with the company enough. Please.
Well, good morning, and it's been really exciting working with the students. We've gotten lots of emails and chats from all of you asking questions, and the excitement has really been fantastic. My name is Terry Clausen. I am the Key Accounts Manager for International. I handle the International Division. And Dudley's is a company that's 50 years old this year. We're celebrating 50 years. And we're a hair care products company and cosmetic company. And we work direct to the consumer or direct to the cosmetologist. And in our international markets, we're looking for distributors that will actually market to the professionals and to the consumers directly, as we do here in the US. And they would actually have the entire country. They will be responsible and have an agreement, a contract for the entire country. But let me introduce, as I said, Dudley's has been around for 50 years. Joe and Eunice Dudley started the company, and now we're on our second generation. So let me introduce our president, Ursula Dudley Oglesby.
So hi, everyone. I'm Ursula Dudley Oglesby, second generation owner of the company. So I started running the company about 9 years ago. We are in the process of doing a number of things. We're looking at rebranding and refreshing our brand. Our market, as you said, is mainly to the textured hair consumer in the US and in other countries. And we're looking to expand with that as we expand selling our products. all over the U.S. and directly in beauty salons and barbershops, as well as direct to the consumer.
Got it. And yeah, that's a nice quick introduction. So now let's see, Nicola, can you hear us now? Did you figure out?
Yeah, okay, can you hear?
Were you planning to present your team's work and get some feedback, or are you just here to listen?
No, I'll present my team works until now.
Then why don't you go? Yeah, why don't you go then ahead and start with your presentation? The only thing I would ask you to do, try to be as concise as possible. I know we will have more presenters, and then also have quite a few questions online that I wanted to ask. I mean, questions that were submitted online that I wanted to ask. So a quick overview of what your team has in mind, and then hopefully we'll get some good feedback on that, and then we'll move on to the next student. All right?
Right.
Go ahead.
Okay. Thank you, everybody. I want to thank you in the name of my team. I am Nicola Pala, and I'm from Switzerland. I'm studying here, but actually I'm from Italy. My team is number 4, and we choose the Kenya as most promising market, and that's because there are very interesting factors as macroeconomics. That is one of the highest growing economy in East Africa. The middle class represents 16.8%. The socio-cultural factor in our opinion, are the most important, because for the Kenyan human, the beauty is a must. So they take care of their beauty, and is in their social, in the cultural. We have a high penetration of internet in this country, one of the most in Africa. About political illegal factor, safe is safe for foreign businessmen, and they are protected by authorities. The market size is 7. We calculate the market size about 7 million of consumers, and a lot of 1,000 of customers. So we get in this number. We calculate the number of customers. Okay, so the total population is 48 million people, and the total female population is 50%, so 23 millions. The total female population above 14 is 14 million, and total male population above 14 and with textured hair, that is 99%, is 14,100. The total female population above 14 with textured hair and with the income above 775 US dollar per month is 7 million. So what about the competition? There is a high competition. In one side for the most no brand, for the multinational no brand, and as well as local competition. For entering in this market, we thinking about a flexible way, so less risk as possible. So go into this market through the distributors, and focus at the beginning just in Nairobi, in the capital, because it's high density, and in this city there is the highest beauty salon, hair textured, and hair stylish. We contacted 3. We identified 3, and one of them they answered us, and they are taking account of partnership with Dudley. So now we go through the promotion channels in order to have a quality and less cost advertising. We think about using advertising online, like Google AdWords, Facebook Ads, and we also identify a relevant social media platform, and we can use this platform to engage an influencer, so like in Instagram, and so directly to target with to reach the target customers. And another important factor is the community, develop a community of on a Facebook page. About the certification, there are a lot of certification for the imported, but I go later on details. For the logistic, we find the most convenient is sending the products through the containers. We find a company, a shipping company that is 6 hours far away, the Dudley HQ, and they send from Maryland to Mombasa. The cost is around 4,000 euros for containers. The shipping time is 8 weeks, more or less. For the HR, in order to achieve marketing goals, we want to engage search engine optimization, influencers, and in addition, salesmen to promote the product through the customers, so beauty salon, stylish, and so on. So we have a lot of questions, and
well, Nicola, let's then give the company a chance to respond to some of
okay.
So country Kenya, a promotion channel online via Facebook ads and things like that, and shipping mode, you said maybe by sea or by air. So just curious if the company finds your work to be on track or you're way off the mark.
Well, we definitely find them to be on track. Kenya is a fantastic market, and using the alternative ways of advertising through the internet is much more economical, which is fantastic. And shipping via container is the most economical way. Yes, it does take much longer. By air is very expensive, and we also have some restrictions with certain products when we fly by air.
Right.
By air.
Yeah,
so by boat or vessel is actually much better, and by container is fantastic.
Can I ask a few questions? So while Nicola was presenting, I got literally dozens of questions by email related to what he was saying. Some people wanted to get some clarifications. One about the countries. So I looked at the distribution of recommended countries, and so it seems like the most popular country is actually Brazil, but also France, South Africa, Dominican Republic, and the United Kingdom. And then there are like 24 other countries that are recommended only by 1 or 2 teams, like Ghana, Indonesia, India, and so on and so on. So, but talking about the most popular ones, Brazil, Dominican Republic, South Africa, Tanzania, Kenya, do those sound like viable countries to you? Or
Absolutely.
Interested in going there?
That would be fantastic. All those countries would be wonderful markets for that.
Right, okay. Then another block of questions is actually about advertisement. And so there are a few students who are questioning Nicola's suggestion to do it online. So several students are asking or pointing out that your clients are professionals, right? It's not the end consumer. It's the beauty salons and basically, corporate clients essentially. And so some students expressed doubt that it would be possible to easily reach that specific segment via Facebook. So Facebook or whatever other social media you use. So they say that social media are good for the kind of broad advertisement, but if you need to deal with the professionals, some teams say that you literally have to either call them directly or kind of walk door to door and talk to them. So what has been your experience so far? How do you reach your clients now? Like, what are the channels, promotion channels that you use at this time?
Our distributors actually, they use the internet. One of the advantages of using the internet is that we want to drive the consumers to the salons. So when we do advertising or promotions on the internet, we are also promoting that business, that salon, or that distributor. So it's driving those consumers to go and ask for the product.
So basically ask your doctor, right? So that's
correct. Correct. And then we actually go door to door. We do go door to door. And then there are associations with cosmetology associations or beauty schools associations. There are trade shows and workshops that they have. So you always want to participate or get involved in those as well.
And some of those have groups. Some of those have social media groups. So if you're looking at targeting some of those social media groups of cosmetologists, then that's helpful as well. So I think it's important to do a full holistic approach where you have a little bit of everything, because if you focus on just one, then you still might miss someone.
And you think about generations, certain generations find their information via internet versus others want to receive a phone call or a text message or an email. So you have to be able to relate to every generation.
And actually, a few teams did specifically suggest finding associations or communities of professionals who may have either groups on Facebook, or also some teams are saying that there are like literally mailing lists and associations in different countries. And I even see some teams provided links to those groups and to those mailing lists and those websites that, like literally it would be like an association of professional hairstylists. And so currently in fact, one team even says that they even have like annual convention. So where all the people from the country get together, and they say the best way to advertise, you send someone to that convention. And so my impression then is, if you know of something like that, then provide as much information as possible, literally with the names, contacts, mailing lists, so that the company can use it. So, but again, does that sound like a viable promotion channel to you? Would those things work?
Absolutely. Yep.
Another question: if you teams ask about the volume of the shipping, so they're not sure what methods to propose because they don't know how much normally is shipped. Are we talking about like pounds or tons? How much does a hair salon buy of your products, and how frequently would it be? Because again, they're torn here, air versus boat, speed versus cost. And so they say if the volume is only a few pounds at a time, maybe then air or something speedier would be fine. But if it's in tons, then obviously you're better off going by rail or sea. So, and honestly, I have no idea what the volumes would be. So,
well, we recommend for countries because they would have the rights to distribute to the entire country. We recommend by container, either a 20-foot or 40-foot container. So normally that's via vessel by boat. Some of the smaller countries in the Caribbean, we can do air, and they have some good rates for freight via air. But in Africa or Europe or Asia, definitely via a vessel.
Okay, and then another question was here. When you ship your products to the hair salons, for example, is there like a middleman somewhere, like a distribution center, or do you normally ship it directly to the essentially end users?
We ship directly to the distributor, and then the distributor may have a location where they come and pick it up, or he has a team of people that actually goes and delivers. They set up their own distribution, one in country. We ship directly to the distributor. And
then there are three teams asking that same question. So would it be viable to also try to find or suggest the best distribution strategy in terms of, suggest maybe local distributors who could be that central warehouse where the hair salons from that country would be picking up the merchandise, or would you not be interested in that at this time? So, for example, there is one team that suggests France, and they say there should be enough clients there, and it's a big country, and then shipping to each hair salon individually would be too costly. And they say it would be a good idea to find some company that would provide those central distribution services. Apparently, they even have a few potential leads. And so the question is, would that be interesting to you, or would you prefer to work with the end consumer at least in the early stages?
What we prefer is to identify a distributor. One distributor that we would actually ship directly to that distributor, and they would identify if they want to ship, have a location, which could be a suggestion, or if they have a team of people that would actually deliver the product to the salons. So, and in most countries now, they have the bonded warehouses, usually at the docks. So a lot of the distributors use the bonded warehouses, hold it so they don't have to liberate the product until they're ready to sell it, which is just helps with cash flow. But we allow the distributor, whoever the distributor for that country, to determine which works best for them.
Makes perfect sense, yes. All right. Nicola, did you want to ask anything else or any other ideas that your team is entertaining that you would like to receive feedback on before we move on to the next stage? Unmute your microphone. We cannot hear.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Great. In 1994, you start to develop your training program in Zimbabwe and in South Africa. What is your entry mood, and how do you sell in this market?
Okay, currently we're not in Zimbabwe, and at this time it's not a good time to be in Zimbabwe.
Oh yes. Yeah.
But far as, are you asking about how we provide education for the cosmetologist, or let me make sure I understand your question. So
the question was more, did you have a local partner? Did you establish your own wholly owned subsidiary there, or did you just ship the products?
Local partners, local distributors. Absolutely.
So at the beginning,
everywhere right now are local distributors.
So at the beginning, is the entry move is through the local distributors, right?
That's correct.
And did you develop a beauty school at the beginning when did you enter in Africa countries?
Oh, in Zimbabwe.
Did you open?
Zimbabwe was a special market. In most markets, we start with a local distributor. And we have a team of educators, over 30 educators here in the US. And what we like to do is work with the distributor to identify some of the top salons in their country and train them to be educators for them, so that we don't have to send someone from the US, but they would have their own team of educators in country to do seminars, workshops, and training for the cosmetologists, barbers, and beauty schools.
Thank you. What are the main challenges that you find when you enter in African countries?
In most countries, I think the biggest challenge is bureaucracy. You have a lot of challenges with customs, and one of our biggest things is finding the right person. Dudley market's different. Most people want to go directly to stores, and we market direct. So finding the person that understands our marketing plan, our philosophy, and our mission first, and then making sure that we're able to enter the country without challenges. I haven't found one country that we haven't had some type of challenge, but I mean, so for us, that's normal, and you just have to get over that particular hurdle.
And making sure that as Terry said, when we're finding the right person, that the person not only understands our mission and our values, but also that they're good business people. that they understand business and how to run a business effectively and profitably, that they understand cash flow and what it takes to run the business, purchase the products, bring the products in, and then, of course, to sell the products in that particular country. So it's really a special type of person that can fit the model that we're looking for to be successful.
Makes sense. A few more questions, again, based on what we've been discussing so far. One question about the type of relationship that you have with your distributors. So one team is asking, do you normally form a joint venture with them, or would it be simply a distribution contract?
It's simply a distribution contract.
And another one, the clients who buy your products, do they have sort of a subscription and you just know that every month you have to send a certain number of products, or do they place an order each time separately and tell what exactly they need for the next whatever month or period?
It is not a subscription. They normally, once you have worked with a client, you kind of know their rhythm and their buying habits. So you know basically what you need to prepare for them. So you make suggestions to them what they need. And they appreciate that, because most cosmetologists are focused on their clients, not necessarily their inventory. So having that system that can give you the information of the client's purchases is extremely important. And also introducing new products to that client is important. But basically it's month by month or every 2 weeks, depending on how that client purchases.
Now, were you referring to the client or the distributor?
Distributor. And in fact, that team, so question, they say, would you be open to the idea of offering some sort of like a subscription type of service where, for example, you know, they say that every month we will need this, this, and this, and this, and if they subscribe like for the whole year, if I understand the question correctly, maybe you'll give them a little discount, but that will make it more predictable for you as to how much you need to ship each time. And for them, they don't have to worry about forgetting to place an order, so they just know that certain basic products arrive on a regular basis every month.
Oh, for the distributor, absolutely.
So right now they place orders, but that's definitely something that we're open to, because again, that would help us if we're able to predict, you know, which products they're going to use. I would say though, in the very beginning, that's going to be difficult because, you know, they're not going to know exactly what their customers are going to want. And then as trends change, then products change as well. So as they introduce more products to them, then obviously that'll change. But we're definitely open to a subscription, but that's probably 2 to 3 years down the road until they have a feel for all of our products and have a good understanding of our products, and then their customers, the cosmetologists, have a good understanding and buying pattern of which products they want to use.
So then if I hear you correctly, and I guess that would be the advice to the team, the idea might be viable, but provide more details and explain what exactly you have in mind. So in general, it seems interesting, but if you have a better strategy for how to build it, do provide those details so that the company can review them and then decide if it's going to work or not.
Sure.
Samantha, did you want to provide a quick review of what you've seen so far and see if we can get feedback on that, or should we go to the full-scale reports and take a look at it as examples and see if we can get feedback on them?
That's up to you. I did have one comment in terms of the marketing. I've seen several teams mention kind of teaming up with beauty bloggers or social media promoters. Yeah, that was kind of an interesting idea. I don't know how you guys feel about that, since you tend to, you know, work more directly with the salons rather than, you know, the individual customer. But I did just want to bring that up because I've seen several teams mention that as well.
Yeah, we love that idea. Actually, we're going to be doing more of that here in the States, working with beauty bloggers to get the word out there about particular products of ours. Again, so that, you know, we do sell some here in the States direct to consumer. And then, of course, like we said earlier, if the consumer can ask their cosmetologist, their professional, for the products, then that's all the better. That helps build the brand.
So again, if I may interject here, so if a team is suggesting something like that, I personally believe it would be useful then to provide the names of the specific influencers that you think would be useful maybe even reach out. Normally they would have a rate posted somewhere, like for example, how much would it cost, to hire them essentially to do a blog or blog post about the specific product. I mean, do they charge anything, or do they just get a sample if they love it? It would be helpful because again, there are many different potential influencers, and it's hard to find the right people, and it's hard to see or find right away how much would that cost, what kind of principles they use when they work with the companies, use sort of product placement. So if you can find out all that information, that would be very useful.
Yes.
Yeah. A lot of them have put the names of who they want to team up with, but I like the idea of trying to include some pricing as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Also along those same lines, I see that many reports talk about that they need to build a community, and so they say that maybe instead of, or in addition to going to the existing communities of professionals in this industry, maybe you should try to build one around your own maybe page. And so if you posted like daily tips about hair care, and maybe had some stories about your products, they say, or at least some teams seem to believe that over time you can build your own community, and people will come to you for those tips, advice, and maybe even ask you to promote their products. Again, to me, it sounds like a good idea, but it seems like more details may be necessary. I mean, as an idea, yes, but how exactly, that is a challenge. So if you have anyone on the team who can give more, suggestions, if you have that experience, I suppose the company would be interested in that. I don't know, any quick response to this community building idea?
I think the community building idea is a great idea. But in their report, definitely give us some suggestions, what they're thinking about, how they would go about building that community. How would they get people to buy in, and how would they reach those individuals? So great idea.
Yeah. One more block of questions. I got a few angry emails here saying that why didn't I ask them? And yes, I apologize. The HR. So we have a few questions related to whether or not you're open to hiring people in other countries. Let's say, for example, France or the Dominican Republic or whatever country is a viable market. Would you be open to the idea of hiring local sales representatives, local teachers or trainers, whatever you call them? First, if it's even possible. And second, if you've done it in the past, how did you structure their compensation system? Was it commission-based? Was it fixed salary? Was it, on one-time basis or a permanent basis? How did you do it in the past?
Okay, so we're actually not looking to hire anyone in another country. What we do is we're really looking for that independent contractor, that distributor. Mm-hmm. Then if that distributor chooses to hire people within the country, then they can do that. And they can decide if they want to have them as employees or independent contractors, and how they choose to pay them. We do have distributors in different countries who do that. But again, they are independent contractors for us versus us having international employees.
Makes perfect sense. A few teams asked, or a few students, I guess in this case, what would it take to be your distributor? So like literally one person says, if I wanted to be your distributor, and I think I can rent the warehouse and go door to door and try to sell your product. Would that work? Do you have any specific requirements? How would you approach that?
What we ask from the distributors, Ursula mentioned earlier, is that they understand business, understand that, how to make a profit, and understand the market. So we ask them to do a market analysis and a business plan. Once they submit that information, and we go into interviews and conversations with them to determine if they have the ability to do that, as well as have the revenue available to purchase a container, or a 20-foot or 40-foot container, or if they are in the Caribbean, of course, that could be a smaller shipment. So once that is determined and everything fits in place, then the answer is yes, they get a contract from us, an agreement. That agreement is based on a year. We determine what the purchase amount is monthly. If they reach those levels, then we extend that contract for 5 years.
Mm-hmm. And then another related question is somebody saying that they have a hair salon in their city, and they think that hair salon would like to buy your products. Would it even make sense to talk about that particular single client, or it doesn't make sense to talk about it until you have a whole network and a distribution network? So would it be viable to even try with one single client, or it's too hard, too costly?
Well, one of the things that has to happen is that the product has to be registered. So before we can ship into the country, it has to be registered. So it works better when we have a distributor because they'll be servicing many clients versus one client, unless it's somewhere in the US.
So when you say registered, you mean many countries require some sort of like a local license or a local certification of quality, or is it something different?
Certification of quality, yes. Usually through the Minister of Health, most products have to be registered, you know, to import them into the country.
Right. There are certain legal things that we have to do in corporate, you know, expenses that we have to incur once we decide that we're going to start selling our products or that we're going to have a distributor in a particular country. So for us, there is a minimum cost to get started. So that's why we don't start with one salon. We really look for a distributor to really make sure that we are able to take care of some of those costs and minimize them over a period of time.
Makes sense. Right, a couple of teams also that asked, would it be even possible to talk about retailing your products directly to the end consumers? From what I remember from the last webinar, you don't do that. It's not the type of product that people use at home. But since they asked it again, I guess I'll direct the question to you, and maybe you can explain better how it works here.
No, it is a product that people use at home. So that's not the issue. The issue is, though, because we don't sell in stores, we still would need a distributor to be able to get those products to the end users in that country. So a network is still required in order to make that happen. So it's still the same process. You still have that distributor that then gets to the cosmetologist and can get to the end consumer as well. There are certain products that are not for the consumer, for example, the chemicals, your relaxers, your colors, those sorts of products. But there are basic shampoos and conditioners that your end consumer will use. But you're still going to need that system of a distributor in that country to get those products to the different people.
And I got two questions right away. Then why not try to sell it online, like on Amazon or other, I assume, online retailing stores?
For some of the same reasons that we talked about before. So we do sell on Amazon here in the US. We have not expanded that into different countries. Again, as I just mentioned, you know, there are specific requirements once you decide to sell in another country. And there are costs that are involved from a corporate standpoint that we don't want to incur to sell one or two products into a particular country.
So it sounds to me that even if you wanted to sell it online in different countries, it would still have to go through a local distributor. You just ship the whole container and then they handle all the shipping and stuff. Makes perfect sense. Again, I don't know what exactly that team had in mind when they asked the question, but again, if you think that's the viable strategy, then make sure that you have the whole chain, decision chain described, and then maybe even suggest potential local, would you call them distributors, retailers? I'm not even sure. I guess it would be kind of like an online retailer. So because, right, it would be too difficult to ship each bottle directly, to France or Spain or whatever the country.
Exactly.
All right. Samantha, Nicola, did you want to ask anything else before I wanted to show some sample reports just so we can get a sense of what they look like so far? Any other questions before we transition in this final stage or final phase of the webinar?
I have nothing. Go ahead.
Nicola, we cannot hear you. Your microphone is muted.
Okay. Something about the budget of an advertising campaign. How much do you spend in an advertising campaign?
Well, and I will also add, if you are not at liberty of disclosing that information, it's perfectly fine. So good question, but you don't have to answer it if you don't want to answer it. I suspect some of this may be not exactly the information that is public, but yes, please, sorry.
Sure. So really, he's correct. We really don't share that information. I will tell you, though, a lot of what we do is not advertising in the sense of, radio advertising or television advertising. We produce a number of different publications ourselves, and then our distributors purchase those, or we give them away, just depending. And then the distributors takes those to the professional cosmetologist. So we do a lot of quote unquote advertising, that way. And then of course we have social media and some of the other, free venues that we use. But a lot of it is we do through ourselves versus the typical uses of advertising. We have our own YouTube page, and we do a number of different things like that.
Makes perfect sense, yes.
I would ask you some questions about the margins and margin about the distributors and something more precise, but I guess it's not possible. So thank you.
So yeah, profit margins, I assume that's also not exactly the public information, right?
Well, no, but what I will say though is and Terry can tell you a little bit better than I can as far as, because I don't know what our distributors sell the products for. So that makes it a little more difficult, but I can tell you that from what I believe, most of them have, what type of margins from what we sell it to them for and what they sell it for.
Yes, they usually have about 60 to 70%
Markup.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, very good.
So, all right, I see we have one more student who just joined in. Mirella, did you want to ask some questions or you just joined to listen? Because we're running out of time, so if you wanted to ask some questions, we have to give you time right now. And your microphone is muted. I'm not sure if you're trying to say something. Well, anyway, we'll proceed with some of the sample reports, and then if you want to ask questions, unmute your microphone and let us know. So what I'm going to do is I would like to share my screen here for a second and just show you some of the reports that we have so far. The challenge here is obviously it would be very hard to look at them, in detail, but just to give you a sense of what they look like. Like, for example, I ran the report team number 6, Italy. So they recommend Italy as a market. Wanted to see, so they have the list of the team members here. Obviously, I need to know who submitted it. And so nice content, nice design. But when we get to the executive summary, so first of all, my own concern here is that it's a little hard to read. I wish it was somehow better segmented. So like I don't see the sections. So I don't know what country you guys proposing. I don't see right away what pricing strategy you recommend. I don't see the strengths and weaknesses. So it's a wonderful design, but a little hard to read. And as I said in the previous webinar, Dudley is, I believe it's the most popular company this semester or the second most popular company. Only in the early track, and the early track was a small track, we had 76 submissions, and we'll have probably 2-3 times as many in the late track.
Okay.
So that will be like 200 reports. And so each report is about 30 pages long. And so the company will get literally 6,000 pages of text. And so I don't know how busy they are, but I suspect they're too busy. And there is no way they will be able to read 6,000 pages of text. So they will probably rely primarily on the executive summaries to get main ideas. And so if you have an executive summary like this one, I mean, it will take like 3 minutes just to read it. I'm not sure if they will have that time. So with this report, I'm not sure if I want to even go into further details. Even though it's visually appealing, I personally find it a little hard to read. Let me open a couple more again, just random reports, just to see what other ones look like. So this one, again, Team 30, apparently they recommend, no, that's VSA, the company's location, list of the students, table of contents, I suppose useful, but not necessarily the key information, executive summary. So same thing, almost impossible, like it will literally take 3 minutes to read this one page. And I'd say, I don't know, if I had 200 reports to read, I probably would not have the time to read it in detail. Let me open one more, just hopefully I'll get something that is better formatted, just to give you an example of what it should look like. And I'm sorry, I'm not focusing here on the business side, more on the kind of formatting. But again, I, as an instructor, will have to read 150 of those reports. I have 150 students. And then the companies will have anywhere between, 25 to 200 reports. So here's another one, Team 49. Yes, this is a much better summary. So industry and competitive analysis, at least for the section, and I can take a look at that more, detailed description later on in the report. Market success criteria, so what is needed for the market to be viable. Again, I wish it was a bullet list so I can see right away, but at least we have some segmentation here. Selection and market analysis, South Africa, something good. Yeah, entry mode. Exporting, so makes perfect sense. Promotion channel, distributors, fine. So not perfect, but at least this one is more readable than the previous one. I'm also not sure why this team chose to use double spacing. I'd say go single spaced, easier to read. There is no need for us to leave the comments between the margins or lines. So I suppose either way is fine, but as an instructor, I think I would prefer single-spaced. Let me open a couple more again. Yeah. Dudley's, list of team members. Again, maybe would have been better if you gave them to me like in a bullet list so I can see the names right away. Here it's a little hard when one name ends and the next one starts. Here on the next page. Yeah, very good. Executive summary, same problem. I don't know why I'm getting reports that look like this, because the previous webinar we looked at some samples, they were much better formatted. So, but again, those teams that are still working on the reports, I would recommend you to always keep in mind that the company will have 3, maybe 5 minutes total for your report. And even with that, they will have to spend a whole day just reading them. Try to format it in as user-friendly format, as easy to read as possible. Let me open one more and we'll stop there, but yeah. So same sort of problems, so I wish you were a little bit more considerate of the reading. For the company, I will say this though, do not worry. Somebody's listening to music here, yeah. Do not worry about having to read so many reports. We know you're busy and we know you will have no time to read 6,000 pages. So what we do is we hire some graduate students who will then go through the reports and will prepare an executive summary for you. Okay. So we'll have like a 5-10 page summary, like there would be a table with the countries and you will see, this is the most popular, next popular, so on. And then, pricing strategy, some main ideas. And then there will be a few kind of out of the box ideas. So it would be most popular and most interesting. And then you will have a link to the actual reports that provide those things. And so if you find interesting, you will say, oh, that's interesting, I would like to see more. And then you see this report, let's say 255, you open that one and take a closer look at the specific contact names, links, potential distributors, whatever else they found. So this way it will be more manageable for you, and at the same time, you can still go to the original reports if you want to. So we will send you all of them, but as I said, I know that it will be impossible for you to read all of them. Much out of time, but I see Joe just joined. Joe, did you want to ask some questions, or you're here for the next webinar? Just quickly.
I'm early for the next one.
Okay, all right. Well, then I think we're going to stop here. We have another webinar in 15 minutes. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Not much will be happening in the next 2 weeks as the teams are finalizing their reports. Maybe a few more questions than usual, just because it's the last weeks. But then we will give you a lot of work in the first, second week of December. That's when we will have all the reports, and that will get kind of busier for you. So for now, I guess we'll just wait for the students' questions. I did receive a few more via email that I didn't have the time to ask. So what we'll do is probably just forward them to the company and ask to provide the answers by email. And yeah, thank you everyone for your time. Thank you so much for your time. I know you are very busy and it's a middle of the day. I'm sure you have better things to do. So thank you so much for finding the time for our students.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much.
Everybody have a great day. Bye-bye.
So those of you who are staying here for the next webinar, we will start in about 10 minutes. So let me check with the presenter and make sure that he will be here with us. Nicola, Samantha, thank you so much for your comments and questions and presentations. That was very nice and insightful, good examples. And yes, if you're staying for the next webinar, I'm going to switch off my camera and sound for a few minutes, and we'll be back online in about 10 minutes.
Okay.
Bye. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Was it my phone or somebody's, or Joe, was it your phone?
That was my phone. Sorry.
Okay, yeah, I got like, where's my phone? Anyway, a few more minutes and we'll go live.
Sorry about that.
No problem at all. No problem at all. Okay, Mike, I see you here. Can you hear us? Is the sound working this time?
Yeah, I can hear you perfect. Can you hear me?
Isn't that the first time where everything?
I think it's the first time ever.
Yeah,
every time I click, I start to sweat because
right.
I fear the worst.
Reflex, yes, absolutely. So we have a few more minutes, so let's just give the students time, and we'll go live in about 5 minutes.
Okay.
But yeah, it's the usual thing. We have a number of teams that volunteered or wanted to present to you what they have so far, and then get your feedback. And so I see there are a few students here already, and more. So let's see how it goes.
I'm getting lots and lots of questions. I'm getting lots of emails.
I would like to thank you for answering those questions. I do see you copy usually me, and I see it's a huge volume of emails. And if you have any other company that is so proactive, so prompt with replying to students' emails, I almost feel guilty because I kind of feel like we're abusing your generosity.
No, not at all. I'm actually getting unbelievably terrific comments, and I mean, I just continue to have major staff problems. I can't seem to get anything done that needs to be done, so it's been a real drag.
Well, the plan for today will be, as I said, to look at some sample reports, to ask or allow students to present their work and ask their questions and maybe ask feedback. And yes, so, and then we still have a few weeks left, so the late track students hopefully will have them this feedback, and we'll be able to use it to improve their work.
Yeah, you know, I had Recia actually wrote up the challenge, the comments, and I think there was a lot of confusion with, you know, at the beginning about what we were actually looking for. I think it's pretty straightened out now.
Well, ultimately, again, if you either in the process figure out or, you know, decide that something else is needed, or there are specific questions you want to focus on, the students focus on, we don't have a, you know, firm structure. I mean, yes, we do have a list of questions that we gave them initially, but ultimately the goal is to provide the information that is useful for you. So if in the process you would like them to kind of shift attention to something different, we can definitely ask for that.
Fantastic. I'm getting great feedback and really good information, so I have no complaints. I just feel bad that in the beginning, I think that the students were a little misdirected. I didn't read it close enough to see where the confusion would come from, so it was my fault.
Right, right. Well, so I think even though we have about 5 minutes left until the official start, the YouTube stream goes a few minutes, with a delay of a few minutes. So I think we'll start now. This way, by the time it's on YouTube, it will be roughly 11 o'clock. Before we get into the technical side, let me just do a quick overview of how it will go today. We've had many webinars with Voyager Study Abroad before. So we've had probably 5 or 6 already, and obviously one earlier this semester. At that time, the goal was to present the company, so introduce the company. And so we focused or gave all the time to Mike Tyler, who was talking about the company, the history, the products, and things like that. Today, we will not do that. So if you would like to learn more about the company and you're watching now, so just go to the page and find the recorded webinar and watch that one, the recording. So today we want to reverse the table and let students talk and present what they have so far and then ask for feedback. So the early track is already done, so for them it's too late to make any changes, but the late track is so they still have 2-3 weeks before the end of the project. And so the hope is that this intermediate feedback will allow the teams to do a better job and provide information that is more useful to the company. Voyager Study Abroad is the most popular company, I believe, this semester, so it's a huge number of teams that chose them as the client. And the reason I say that is that you should keep in mind, and I've said that in the previous webinars, but it's especially true for Voyager Study Abroad this semester, you should keep in mind that the company will receive literally about 200 reports total. So we're talking about, like a pile of paper that is like this thick. We're talking about a foot of paper, I don't know, those of you in other countries, 20, 30 centimeters of, imagine this type of book. And so there is no way possible that the company CEO will have the opportunity, the time, the possibility to read all of those reports, every single word. So just humanly impossible. So your challenge here is not only to present good ideas and business leads and good content, but also present it in a way that it can be reviewed quickly. Because what will happen is the company will have at best maybe 5 minutes per report. Maybe if it's so terrific, so engaging that it's impossible to stop reading, maybe then it will be more time. It will be a rather quick review and then more time on the things that catch the attention. Like, for example, if your executive summary is neatly summarized, neatly formatted, easy to see what you're proposing, and some of those ideas stand out right away, like, oh, this is an interesting pricing strategy, or, oh, that's an interesting promotion channel. Only then the reader will probably go to the rest of the report and will actually read that section. So it's very important for you to think about the reader and make it easy to get the main ideas in seconds, literally in seconds, not even in minutes, in seconds, and then have a hope that the person will actually allocate enough time to read the whole section. Same, by the way, applies for us, the instructors. So most of us teach fairly large classes. I have 150 students this semester. Some have 200, or even if it's 50 students, it's still a lot of reports. So always think, how do I make it easier to read? But we're going to stop here. I see we have Samantha, David, Joe here. So would you guys want to go and share what your company has in mind right away and get some feedback, or would you like me to give a general overview first? David, are you guys ready? Would you like to share what you have so far?
Yeah.
All right, go ahead. So which one, Joe, will you go first?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
That's fine.
Go ahead.
Well, we have several things that we're looking at to go first with, and I kind of ran it by already, but just using the advertisement agencies that are already in the Chinese market to help, but they seem to be too costly. So then I started researching a little bit more, and you can directly go to these, what will be the new Facebook of China. There's, I have an engineer student that goes over there a lot, and he says a lot it's because it's censored, and most of the material is. So, but with this, it also has like PayPal and all this stuff. It has so many different platforms to call it than just a social media site, So I got the pricing sheet from that, and it's about half of what we were dealing with the Bloomberg stuff. And Bloomberg does have like several different channels to go through, but they're very costly, I think. And but this way, it's kind of like a per hit kind of situation. It's like kind of like Facebook. You pay for the per 1,000 that you hit, and that's how the ad promotion works, right? And so that way you can kind of reduce your pricing, you know. So it's instead of like 10,000 up front for like Bloomberg or a bigger company, you can try to kind of touch and feel and see. All right, well, let's place it in this age demographic here. And the good thing about this We Talk site that I found is that they have their own agency, ad agency inside of it itself to try to make it a little more detailed for you, you know. So it's like it's double both teams are working together kind of thing. So and another and one of the cheapest things I found is have it's no cost at all, is just have all my staff or friends that to join WeChat and log in daily and mostly just show different promotions that we have going on in our company. And so we just keep trying to add students, and I'm sure we won't add every student, but just constantly we got 5 people trying to add students. And like my Facebook page is, yeah, I've been blessed to travel a lot, but my Facebook page has around 5,000 people. It's the max thing. So when I blast out something, it goes to a lot of people. So if you start building your 5 people start building their WeChat to like 1,000 each, that goes out free, you know, and on your main page could be Voyager and talking about it, and then it can go a little bit further in detail to questions and stuff like that when you start to ask about the person, and that's absolutely free before you even add on the place an ad.
So any comments on that strategy, Mike?
Absolutely. First, I want to thank Joe. I've actually been communicating with him, so we're very familiar with each other. He actually knows some of the problems that I've had. I want to say that, and for the other students as well, it's very easy to recommend markets. And, you know, Joe came up with a very tough market that I probably, if I didn't speak to him first, would have discouraged students from pursuing, which is the China market. And the reason is obviously they don't have the same social media. They block Facebook, a lot of the channels. And Joe actually went and his team did a lot of the work to find ways of actually implementing, which helps me a lot more than say, oh, you should go into the China market. So I want to commend him for going the extra steps and actually doing the research and finding the ways of doing, not only saying you should do this, but telling me how I could potentially do it, which is huge.
Thank you.
Right, and the key point here is how. So I've seen a number of reports already, and it seems to be in many cases the overall idea is very logical, like advertise on Facebook, for example. What is missing in many cases is how. So give us the details. We'll talk more about that later, but you know, okay, Facebook, all right. So tell me, you know, what kind of demographics would you choose? You know, Facebook allows you to choose the specific profile of people that you market to, age, location, language, interests. Facebook allows you to choose, I believe, like 20, 30 different characteristics to define your narrow specific segment. Give us those give us that information. How much will it cost? Maybe, you know, try to place your own ad, select all those demographics, size of the audience, see what you get quoted. And so all of those things would be necessary, because simply saying, you know, go to China and advertise on Facebook, definitely not enough. We have many people waiting here, but since we started talking about countries, I would like to give some quick statistics here. So there are, when I said teams, I was not joking. So there are 195 teams in the region alone working on Voyager Study Abroad. So we're talking about, so it's like 1,500, 600 people who are working on it. And so I did a quick summary for the countries. So at this time, yes, China is the most popular market, followed by the United States. Obviously, the United States is an obvious choice. So most of the clients or students come from the United States now who go on the Voyager study abroad tours. And the company, I assume, is interested in continuing working in the United States primarily. But the fact that we have 71 teams total who believe that you can recruit participants from China, and they are very good compelling reasons. Apparently in China now it's popular, in some schools necessary. They would like to work with an American provider as opposed to the Chinese, the brand recognition, the prestige that comes with that American origin, the quality of the tours, and apparently there is no shortage of people who have the money to pay for this. So again, as long as you can provide a good strategy, my understanding is that the company is very open to the idea. It just you have to show how. More companies are India, Canada, makes sense, Brazil, Australia, the United Kingdom, and then a bunch of other countries that usually would have one or two teams working on them. Like for example, the United Arab Emirates, Sweden. So again, Singapore. So I assume as long as the details are there, the company will consider that. I don't know, quick comments on the locations, Mike. So I don't know, do those sound like viable companies to countries to you?
I think they're all viable. I've tried to recruit in Brazil, Canada, Australia. I've not tried as much in Singapore, but I have had ads running there. I am actually trying to get into the Middle East. I'd love to get into the United Arab Emirates, and I've tried also to get into Egypt, and I actually have some contacts there, and I've been working on doing that. Actually, UK would be tough because European countries have Erasmus programs, and they really, I don't know how interested they would be in participating in my program because they have very little travel restrictions. They can get around, and most of the people who live in the UK have probably visited many of the cities that are on my itinerary. But I'm always open to new ideas. I need help, so everything is good.
And I assume ultimately, if you believe there is a market, maybe just go and talk to some potential consumers, students, deans of the business schools, whoever else, maybe parents making those decisions. And as we recommended, try to interview them and see what they say. Are they even interested? If they are interested, what they are looking for, then maybe even try to sign up some of them. So yes, it's an important thing for your students at your business school. Why don't you maybe have a direct contract with VSA and you can work with them, on a regular basis. Or if it's an individual person, your friend perhaps, or maybe someone so you think you would like to, here are the contacts, why don't you try it? And I think this would be the best attestment to the viability of your idea. So saying that China is a great market, I suppose there's some value in that. But if you bring 1, 2, 3, 5 customers from there, I guess that's when the idea will be sold. Yes, I already see you could recruit so many participants. It seems like there is enough demand there. Yeah. All right, so I see here we have Alex, David, Samantha, Snipiria. So did you guys want to present your work and some feedback? Who wants to go next? David, you raised your hand. Okay, please go ahead. Just unmute your microphone. You need to unmute your microphone, David. So unmute the microphones of the people who are not talking to prevent the feedback. Okay, now we can hear you. Please go ahead.
Okay. Can you hear me?
Yes.
So we've chosen Spain as a country because, first of all, the tuition there is really cheap. It's like 1K per year, so that the students will have to pay less than, for example, the United States. We have chosen Spain too because students obviously can get Spanish, but we have chosen there 3 cities. Okay, in Spain, people talk Catalan, people talk Galician, people talk Basque. We don't want the students to be there because sometimes in Catalonia, people only talk in Catalan, and in Galicia only in Galician, and we think it will be a little bit difficult to get the Spanish there, with so many accents, so many, So our idea is to take our students to places where cities have this standard Spanish, like cities in the north, for example, Bilbao, for example, Burgos, for example, Valladolid. So it will be easier for them to get the Spanish, and also they are in a really good location. All these cities have airports, So within.
So are you talking here about the destinations, or you're talking about where the students can be recruited from?
We are talking about the destinations, yeah.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
Mike, so what would be your response? Because my impression is that you're not that interested in the destinations. You already have that more or less figured out. Is that correct, or you're interested in those ideas too?
Okay, so I'll respond to David. And actually what he said, everything he said is true, but that's really not my primary concern now. In fact, my program is based in Spain. It's based in Madrid. My sponsor university is in Madrid. My students have a residence in Madrid, a single room for the entire 30 days. So we do a lot in Spain. 2 years ago, I did go to Galicia. I always go to Barcelona, even though I do know that they speak Catalan. It's just a place that students like to go. It's a popular destination. We usually don't spend much time there, usually about 3 days in Barcelona. I'm looking for places to recruit from. So we're a multi-country program. We're going to 6 countries, and we're actually going to 12 cities, and we have a lot of expertise in that. And we are going to offer, we did not offer it the previous 2 or 3 years. We are going to offer Spanish this time. So the things that David said are very relevant. And where are you from, David? Are you from Madrid? You live in Madrid?
No, I live in Burgos.
Okay. So
I study in LA. I play soccer in LA, but I'm from Burgos.
Okay, yeah. Okay. So Spain, to me, is like the most interesting country in Europe because of the diversity, the different languages, the different foods, the different cultures, the different backgrounds, the fact that you could go to one region of Spain and they hate every other region of Spain. And it's a pretty interesting country. And actually last year I tried to offer a program that was called Voyager Spain that went to all the cities you mentioned, and I didn't get any students. It was a very difficult process. It's trying to compare going to one country, and a lot of cities in one country. We're going to, France, Italy, Spain, Portugal. It makes it very difficult. It's a hard sell, but it's a great idea. I haven't given up on it. And actually, we're offering a class this semester called Culture of Spain this coming summer that actually explores the differences between the Spanish cultures. And it's just an amazing country, but I need to get students. I just really need to bring in students. So, and this isn't my primary concern right now is destination, because I've been doing study abroad in Europe for 10 years, and I've gone to the different countries. And basically what I've done this summer 28 is try to stack the program with the most marketable countries and cities that still fit in the framework of the classes that I offered. And so, I guess you've all seen, but I'm actually going to Madrid, Lisbon, Florence, Rome, Paris, Amsterdam, and Barcelona, among others. But in study abroad, those are the biggest draws to most people as far as travel destinations. So that's kind of the predicament I have. I eventually would like to reintroduce. In fact, I have one of the professors that works with me is in Madrid, and he was pretty insistent that I offer Voyager Spain again and try it again and go to those countries. But I got to make one work before I make 2 or 3 work, and I had to focus on one, so I'm just doing the Voyager Europe program this year.
Right, makes sense. Anyone else? Alex, Samantha, Sneharpia, if I pronounce your name correctly. Any other comments you'd like to receive feedback on before we get to specific reports and comments that I have here in my database?
I can go next, if that's okay.
Yeah, please go ahead. Go ahead.
Okay, so hi everyone, my name is Priya. For some reason my camera isn't working, so I cannot put that on. But I have spoken to Dr. Tyler before, and then I am choosing the country India. Mm-hmm. We have teammates from, one person is from India, and I'm personally am a US Indian citizen. So I have some knowledge of how the Indian schooling system and everything works. So when the whole team decides to choose India, and I figured it'll be a good place to start. So the one thing that concerned me in regards to India is that the cost of living in India is a lot lower than it is in the US or the UK, because $1 US costs about 65 Indian rupees, and the price of this trip is actually 7,500 per student. And when we were talking in our team, as we were discussing, it turns out that a lot of students in India most likely may not be able to actually attend the program mainly because of the money issue. And then we were trying to like find ways to cut some cost and like decrease the price to like maybe $4,500 or maybe $5,000. And like the only thing that we could possibly see for that would be, instead of having the students live in private bathrooms, like single rooms, private bathrooms, like, and with a 4-star hotel, maybe we could decrease that down to like a 3-star hotels and provide them with like maybe one roommate instead of like having their own personal room. I personally felt like that would be something that we could consider in the long run, at least until our debt of $200,000 goes down by a little bit. So like that's just an ideology. And I spoke to you before, and you said decreasing the cost was not your general idea, but I personally felt like this is something to consider, because if we are aiming for India, they most likely will not be able to actually afford that money. And then when it comes to the types of marketing for that country, we decided.
Can we get a response to that? So just, I'm curious, I'm sure other teams have also thought about maybe reducing the sort of quality and thereby reducing the price. My impression is that Mike is not open to that idea, but it'd be interesting to hear some comments on that.
Okay, well, I'm kind of open to every idea because what I'm doing isn't working. Working very well. But let me just say what my position is. There are probably multiple thousands of study abroad programs out there. Almost every university offers one or multiple study abroad programs. There are dozens of independent providers of study abroad. There are many programs that cost $4,000 to $5,000. Most of those programs go to one city or one country. They never ever leave that city or country. They offer limited numbers of activities, and they offer maybe 1 or 2 classes that the professor that's traveling with the program offers. They have absolutely no expertise. There is only one Voyager. I mean, this is going to be our 4th year. Obviously, we've run the program with very small groups before, but there is no program that is a multi-country program that integrates the classes into the cities and the cities into the classes the way that we do. There is no program that goes to the places we do in the period of time we do it. They don't have a single room in the cities that we travel to. They only have the single room in Madrid, which is rather inexpensive. It's a really good deal I have with a residence that was just completed last year, and they've continued to allow me to bring students there at a very low cost. And they have a restaurant, they provide breakfast and dinner. The model that we have is unique, and I don't think it's easily replicated if it could be replicated at all, because what we're able to do is we're able to travel very quickly using planes and trains. Because we have the residents in Madrid, we don't have lots of luggage that we're carrying along with the students, which enables us to do that. I have 2 professors that work with me that have lots of multi-country study abroad experience. One of them has always lived in Europe and actually in Madrid, and he's very familiar with all the cities we go to. I've been doing study abroad multi-country during the summers for 10 years in Europe, and the other professor's been doing it for 8 years in Europe. So that's our expertise. Nobody else does what we do. So if I went down to a model that charged $4,500 or $5,000, I would be actually directly competing with every school's program and every private provider of study abroad, and it would be almost impossible for me to even try to separate myself from them. I think a lot of people keep on asking financial information, and TRIA was one of them, and I'm not really very thrilled about sending out the information. One of the reasons is that I'm an accounting professor, and it shows what an idiot I am. But my marginal cost of my program, since you guys are online and I don't really care if people know, but my marginal costs are in excess of $7,500. Normally, I end up discounting somewhat. So the average tuition I receive is in the neighborhood of $8,500 to $9,000. That does not cover any of my fixed costs. The amount of money I pay the university that sponsors me. It doesn't cover any of the costs of the professors that travel with me. It doesn't cover the costs that I pay them, nor their lodging and meal costs, nor my lodging and meal costs. And that's why I'm so substantially in debt. So at the moment, unless I significantly changed my model, I could not reduce my cost a lot. However, and I did tell this to Voss earlier in the week, I am going to run an early bird, which reduces the price by 1,000. And then I also, and it's just because you guys have been working on it, but also because I desperately need students, I was going to offer an additional $1,000 off to any ex-culture student, which I don't know how many of you are business majors, but that brings me to exactly what my marginal cost is, which means that it doesn't contribute anything towards my fixed cost. But I need to get students, and I agree, Tria, and I know you've been working on this. It's hard for me to envision completely giving up on my model. Like if I had to do that, I don't think I'd want to do this anymore. I mean, I did it to do it in a certain way. And if I had to change it to make it work, I don't know that I'd really want to do that anymore.
And last time, if I may add here, so we did look at the price issue, and so the lessons I learned from that discussion were that, one, it's not incidental. It's not just, happened to be this much, or not because the company didn't think enough about that. It was specifically a deliberate choice by trying to find a niche where the competition is less. And then when you look at the price, it may seem like a lot of money in general. But when you look what's offered for that money, from the accommodations to the transportation included, food included, all that stuff, it's actually quite cheap, because if you wanted to do all of that on your own, you would never ever be able to organize it within that price point without the kind of group rate that the company offers. Not to mention, you would never be able to put on a program things like, for example, meetings with all those politicians and community leaders and companies. I mean, obviously for that thing, you need to have connections. So yes, if you're fine with just going to one city, maybe you're better off with going, with a company that charges half the price and does that and nothing else, or maybe even going on your own. But if you are interested in a much more kind of diverse, rich program, then Voyager Study Abroad is one of a very few companies that offer that package. And when you see what included with that price, it's actually like there is really no easy way to reduce that price without sacrificing the program richness. Isn't that correct, Mike?
Yeah, and let me just jump in one thing, because I still see Joe up on the screen, and actually I had a conversation with Joe. There is only one program that actually appears to compete with Voyager as far as what they do and how they do it and the things that they do. And I'm going to tell you the name of it. It's Forum Nexus. And Joe actually looked at their website, but he spent some time looking at their website, and he was able to see that if you go on their program, they end up charging you a lot extra for all the things that they claim to provide. It's not easily determined. With my program, I didn't want to have any surprises. It was all about optimizing the student's experience. So and if you were to try to do, and Voss said this already, you could not replicate what I do at anywhere near the cost of what I'm charging. I mean, I was able to get some really good deals from friends, and then the activities that we do, nobody else could do. I have, people that I've worked with in Europe that will put on activities and do things for our students that they wouldn't do for anybody else. So the student's experience is unrivaled. I don't think anybody is close. And I don't think people have the patience to take a look at the classes that we offer and the activities that we do that are related to those classes, but it can't be done. I just think it's a problem that the only way I'm ever going to be able to do this is by word of mouth, and having people take the time and the energy to actually look and compare, and it doesn't seem to be happening. A
related question here. How does it work? You mentioned the credit hours, right? So you do offer some classes. And so how would it work? Is this something that students can put on transcript in any school? Some schools, does it have to be a specific agreement between you and the school? And then there is one thing that just asked a question. You mentioned Erasmus program, and they're asking if this is something that they can use the Erasmus money to pay to travel with you, or it works completely differently.
It's not often that I get a question that I don't know the answer to, or at least can bluff my way through. But the last part of the question, I have no idea. I do not know if you can use Erasmus credit for my program. I don't believe you can, but I don't think it's impossible. I have no idea. In regard to the other questions, most universities—
Credit hours.
Yeah. Credit hours, I think they will transfer. I mean, not in my program, but in programs that I managed before, there were students from Europe that participated and they were getting transfer credit. I was in charge of that process, and we did submit transcripts, so I assumed that they were getting credit transfer. Every place you go and every time you go to transfer credit, there's different issues, but I would say 2/3 of the universities in the US and Canada will take transfer credit. Most of the universities in Central and Latin America will take transfer credit. Most of the universities in Mexico will take transfer credit. And I assume probably most of the universities around the world will accept transfer credit from Voyager Europe, because our transcripts are issued by Endicott College, which is in Boston, Massachusetts, and they are accredited by the accrediting body that accredits Harvard. So I don't think there's going to be any real issue, except for there are some schools that don't accept any independent study abroad. None.
And so if the students would like to have that as an official credit hour or hours on their transcript, do they pay extra to that college that provides the certification?
They should not. If I have a minute, I'll explain it to you. So this is kind of the way it works. We're only offering 6 classes. So one of our 6 classes would have to fit into the student's academic course plan. I mean, they can't just take a course that the university doesn't accept for anything. So normally what we advise is the students see their academic advisor and see what courses they need. And we have transcripts for all our courses, and some of them are rather generic and some of them are rather specific, and depending on what classes the students need, they may or may not fit in. So that's the first issue. The second issue is that very few study abroad offices at colleges and universities are thrilled about the prospect of having their students go on any study abroad program that they do not offer. The reason is what you were saying before, Voss, and that's they want to keep the money. They don't want the student to pay the money to someone else. However, there are a lot of universities, because they do want their students to have a study abroad experience, they will encourage them to do our program if they see that the class fits in something that the student's interested in, or if the student approaches them. You know, I don't know why, but we've had the last couple years, we haven't had very many students at all, but the University of Miami, we haven't had problems because we had students last year, we had students the year before. George Washington University, we had a student last year, we had the student year before. Most schools, if most schools will accept the credit if it fits in the student's course plan and the student wants to go in our program. And if they don't accept the credit, the student wants to go in our program, then all I need to do is call the study abroad office, and normally they will consent, except for that very low percentage of schools that don't accept any. And there's nothing we can do about that. They control the whole process.
If I may, before again I give it back to the students, one question that just came via email: why not charge more? Those who can pay 9,000 can probably pay 10,000. Why keep the margins so low?
Because that's a great question, and we always get back to these, and so then I always have to say that I'm an accounting professor and my expertise is doing that financial part of running businesses, and I've done a lot of consulting, and I seem to do a really good job doing it for everybody but myself. My main competitor, who has dozens and dozens and dozens of students participate in his program, charges 12. He charges 12 plus. I mean, you get on his program and then you have to start buying airline tickets when you're there to go to the cities on his itinerary. I think it's a good question, but I'm just afraid. I mean, to be honest with you, I haven't been able to attract students charging much less than they charge for the other multi-country program. And I'm afraid that if I charge much more, that I'm not going to have any students. I also would like to make my program affordable so that middle-class people or people who have financial aid could still participate in it. I don't want to be completely an exclusive program that's taking a bunch of rich kids around Europe. Not that I have any issue with rich kids, but the diversity of the group means a lot. Every student group that I've had, even the very small ones, they've completely bonded. They're all still best friends. We all still have our WhatsApp. So I have Voyager Europe WhatsApp thing for 2016 and Voyager WhatsApp thing for 2017. We all still communicate like on a regular basis. I got a whole bunch of messages from both of them this morning, but the diversity is good. So it's a great question, and you know, I never went into this thing to make a lot of money, and I've said this before on these things. I'm trying to make a little bit of money where we're even break even, because I really like doing it, and I like taking the students to Europe, and I like the concept of my program, and having run other people's programs, I know it's much better than theirs, and I want students to have that experience.
And then the same team asks, why not try to do some split testing? And by that, I assume they probably mean that why not advertise one price, another price, and see which one generates more leads. It wouldn't be too difficult to create two separate pages so that, one ad leads them to one landing page and another one to another. And see if you have any difference when you advertise on Facebook, for example.
It's an interesting idea. I mean, what I would have preferred to do is, like last year when I had two programs, I had the lower price one, which was the Voyager Spain, and the higher price one that was Voyager Europe. I don't want people going on the same program paying different amounts. I mean, they become really good friends. I actually always try to equalize it. Even when I have a discount, like I'm going to run this early bird special and I'm going to lower the price $1,000, then I feel bad for the kids that don't get it, and I end up finding other ways to discount them because they become very tight. And I don't want somebody to feel bad or feel like they were left out. I mean, people have also suggested that I use lesser housing for some and use my plan for others. And I don't want to have that, that I'm staying in the good place and you're staying in the bad place type of thing.
I mean, dynamics.
I know you got a lot of questions. Let me just say one other thing. I'm a professor first. I care about students.
Right.
This, to me, I did it because I was running two other programs, and they were ripping the students off, and the students were going to McDonald's every day, and they were going to the ice bar every night. They never saw the cities we visited. They went home, and people would ask them about, oh, you went to Lisbon, did you go to Belém Tower, where you went here, did you go to the Eiffel Tower? And they never did anything. And so, and it was a party, and that's not what I wanted to do. So my program's not going to be perfect for everyone, but I know it's got to be perfect for more people that I've been getting.
Who's next? So we don't have that much time left. So anyone else?
Alex? Yeah. Okay.
Alex, did you want to go? Yeah, go ahead, Alex. Yeah.
Yeah, my name is Alex. I'm a coach. I'm an ex-culture coach. I'm handling VSA, and I've been looking at the comments and the ideas. And of course, China came up a lot of times, and probably to give you a number of ideas that I thought would be viable if they were more explored into, like sponsoring study abroad symposiums. I don't know about that. What do you think? And having ambassadors.
Can you explain more? How exactly would that work? Like, what would be a study abroad symposium?
Symposium, like bring together alumni to VSA. Various stakeholders in the education industry, your partners, and trying to make it, the important thing is trying to market VSA and getting more people knowing about the concept of study abroad.
Building.
Yeah?
Community building, right? Like build a community.
Yeah, like a community, yeah.
I don't know, Mike, what would be your response to that? Do you think that's something that is...
We actually have discussed that, and the problem is we've had such a small group to deal with. I mean, let me just give the hard numbers. I had 3 people the first year I did it. I had 14 people the second year, and I had 8 people the third year. So I don't really have much of a community at this point to build on. One of the reasons the price is low, which was the previous question, is because I'm trying to build a community. So I'm not there yet. It just we've talked about doing like online things that the students participate and answer questions online. I don't know if that's similar to what you're saying, but having past participants talk. And all the past participants, if I get a lead from their school, they call the person, and they're from their university or college, and they're willing to call the people and talk to them and tell them what the experience was that they had. But I just don't have enough, I don't think, yet.
Fair enough.
Okay.
What are the other things you've seen, Alex?
Yeah, I also looked at the website. I don't know, it came up so many times. Translation and faster loading time, and trying to present more of your VSA products. That came up a lot. Yeah. And then
Can I respond to that, Alex?
Yeah.
Okay, boss, stick your fingers in your ears. My website sucks. There are like 10 pages of edits that are supposed to be making, 10 small type pages of edits. I sent an email earlier this morning, and if they're not made, I'm going to have to replace all the people that are working on it, start over. It was also running very slow. I had a host in Budapest. I moved it about a month ago or 3 weeks ago to GoDaddy, so the speed should be picking up. But everything you said is true. And you know, it's a really bad website, and I'm hoping that the corrections have made it better. And actually, one of the X-Culture students, Marcus, gave us pages of corrections to make, and we implemented. We're in the process of implementing most of them, but it's really bad. Can I say something to all the students that are out there and ask them what their opinion? Okay, so this is my problem. To explain what my program does differently than the other programs takes a lot of words. And you millennials have a very short attention span. And so I'm having a very big problem emphasizing all the features that I have without having people walk away. It's an issue that it's been an ongoing issue, is how to state what we do that's differently without writing paragraph after paragraph after paragraph that nobody will read.
Yeah. I would only say to that when students notice problems, for example, with the website, it would be very advisable to also provide specific actionable advice for how to fix it. So simply saying not enough information on the website, for example, it's useful, but it's not enough. Maybe send specific recommendations, maybe corrections, maybe, you know, even your own suggested design for the web page. So that would be a little bit more useful. And not only this particular issue, but anything else. So simply pointing out a problem perhaps may not be enough, you know, maybe try to give a little bit more actionable advice. And talking about the website, again, Mike, if that helps in any way, we found good success with support from Ukraine with the website. So many times cheaper, like literally less than 1/10 of what it would have cost us here in the United States. And
I actually wrote that to my web developer this morning, that I wanted a complete report and know if it's going to be done by this weekend. And if not, I told her that you had a great person in the Ukraine.
No, but it shouldn't be even this week. Like when I work, so the guys who do the work for me, our website may not be the most, you know, visually appealing, but at least when it comes to support, if I want some changes, if I want something restructured, normally I mean like real time. So I would just literally Skype them and I say, I would like those changes made. And so he makes them right away. Like literally, we're talking not even hours, minutes sometimes.
Right.
So I've never had a situation where they say, we'll do it until the end of the week. No, I mean, like if I need something, they do it now.
So some of the X-Culture,
lucky, or is to just, you know, but that's something that you might want to consider.
Some of the X-Culture students have gotten so disgusted that they volunteered to fix it themselves for me. So I know it's bad. It's not my generation, and I don't understand the importance of it, but clearly it's an important thing. And I mean, literally, I got a lot of comments from the X-Culture kids, and they were specific. From you guys, you gave me very good comments, and I've already sent them. I actually wrote them up into a 10-page document, and I sent them there. And if they're not done, then I'm going to be calling you tomorrow, boss, or the next day, or Monday, or whatever, and trying to get it fixed.
One more comment, if I may, again, from me, not from students. I know precisely what you mean when you say that to fully explain the program, you need many words, and the millennials do not have that attention span. We have exactly the same problem with X-Culture because it's not your regular summer camp or club. It's a, you know, somewhat different program. And so what has helped us, at least it seems like to some extent, it's been helpful, animations. So we use whiteboard animation, but there are other ways to do it. And so like a 3-4 minute video can provide enough information, you know, like for example, you can literally have a story of a student who goes on a trip with you. Hi, this is Alex, you know, Alex wanted to see the world, so he went with the Voyager study abroad, and this is what he did. And maybe, you know, he considered different companies and chose this one because of, so basically here it is much easier to watch a cartoon for several minutes and get all that information and to read the same 2 pages of text. And so you can do the animation. In fact, we're now adding the children's version of Xculture, and so ordered some animation for that. It's about $200 for a 3-minute clip. Some of them are much more expensive. Some want several $100s per minute. But in the end, we were able to get bids on Upwork from about $50 per minute. So you can get a 3-minute video for about $150, $200, $300, depending on how much you want done, like if it's going to be your voice or if they have to record the voice. But that may be an inexpensive way to communicate more information in a kind of visual engaging way where people will stay around for several minutes to watch it. So it's something that you might want to consider. So I can give you also the links of the people who work with us, but obviously you can find many more offers on like Upwork or others.
Thank you.
So I see we have Hugo here. Andrew, did you guys wanted to, did you want to ask a question or present what you have?
Did I cut off Alex? I don't know if I answered everything.
Yes, yes, Alex, anything else there?
Yeah, just one more thing. There are these campus university events, like conferences, like campus parties, like, yeah, trying to get into to those functions will improve your visibility, especially to those universities that you're partners and those you are trying to get. It will also improve, because your main challenge is it's not an issue with people knowing about study abroad. It's an issue with people knowing about VSA itself, yeah, and what it offers. So you've got a market that it's not tapped into because people don't really know about it, and the issue is about getting it to those people. So getting it to those functions and events will improve your visibility in the market. Another thing that I saw is you also need to create an app, a mobile app, and make your website more mobile friendly, because nowadays people are going to use the mobiles to be accessing the information.
Okay, I agree with you.
Yeah.
All right. I would only add again, if you provide those kinds of advice, maybe give a little bit more details as to how it can be done.
Okay.
Andrew, Hugo, did you guys want to ask something, share something, get feedback?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
All right. My question is, has Voyager ever considered doing a joint venture program with a university? Like, approach a university that doesn't already have an existing study abroad program and offer them, like, if they adopt Voyager as their study abroad program, offer them 10% of the revenue that their students generate?
I would love to do that. Every year I write to 200 or 300 study abroad offices and offer to collaborate with them and offer to do revenue sharing with them. The ones I've contacted haven't been very, very positive about the idea. I don't know if I would have even started the program, but when I started the program, one of the larger universities in Mexico had agreed to partner with me, and I did all this work and set everything up, and at the last minute it fell through, and it was completely at their end. Like, I was willing to give them whatever they wanted, and basically it just fell through at the end. It's a great idea. I would need people to contact. I mean, it's a big work. Some of the smaller schools, I think it would be a great potential opportunity for them and for me. I mean, just even having another school involved would open up a lot of horizons that I don't have now.
Oh wait, you said that you contacted several schools. I mean, what type of schools are you contacting? Are you contacting just general schools? Are you looking for schools that specifically don't already have a study abroad program?
It's hard to identify schools that don't have study abroad programs at all unless somebody tells me, and people do periodically tell me, and then I immediately contact those schools. But I started out just developing lists, so I have a list of the schools that the highest percentage of students do study abroad. Then I have a list of the top 250 by size universities in the United States, and then we've gone through and see how receptive they are to accept transfer credit from private providers. Then we continue to expand that list, and actually we have a huge email list. We have an email list of 5,000 campus leaders too, that's of schools that accept transfer credit from programs. But to do what you're saying specifically, you would almost need a contact, because it's the kind of thing where they think, a lot of schools think they can do it on their own. They're not really as interested in doing quality. They don't want to put in as much time as I put in. They have, let me give you quick, because I know there's a lot of other questions, but normally what a study abroad program in a university is a professor wants to go to, let's say he wants to go to Florence, or she wants to go to Florence. So they set up a study abroad program. They go to their study abroad office. The study abroad office refers their students to that program, and the professor charges just enough to teach their class and go for free. So that, you know, it's a completely different thing. So that's what most school study abroad programs are. So they offer the 1 or 2 classes that are taught by that 1 or 2 professors that charge just enough to bring their group of students from that school to that particular country and generate enough extra money that they don't have to pay for their trip. That's what it is. That's probably 80 to 90% of the study abroad programs. Mm-hmm. But I'd love it. If you have a place you think I should be contacting, I'm there, Andrew.
That's exactly what I wanted to say. So if you think that you know a school that would be suitable, do send the contacts, and maybe even try to stop by and say, I'm a student, I'm here not to make money, I just feel that would be a good thing for our school or for your school, and see what they have to say. So if there is an interest, obviously there are 5,000 students in agriculture this semester. So even if only a few of you try to do that, and even if those who try only a few succeed, it's still maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 schools. So yes, I guess here it's try and see what happens.
Can't hurt.
Yeah, can't hurt. Anything else, Andrew? Hugo, did you want to say something?
Yeah. I want to say something.
Time, so please go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So actually, I'm a transfer student. I just get to the university from the college, and actually this quarter I just applied for the studying abroad program, but not for the VSA, like with the school, like your competitor. Sorry, but it's like what you say just now, like it's like taking an environmental science class in the winter, and we can go to the Vancouver during the spring break, which is short term, like only 7 days, but you know, like we can earn the credit and we can, you know, according to theirs, what they say, like we can have fun, and the tuition is like the normal tuition. It's like the school tuition is not that much. We just pay for our ticket. That's it. And actually, because our school have a U hour, which is every like a noon during the 12 o'clock to the 1 o'clock. So most of like every Tuesday and Thursday I went there, and so I have a lot of information about the exchange program and the studying abroad program, and I also doing this exposure things for the VSA. So I found out like the problem for VSA is like for those like developed country, like the European country, like the German, like the the Norway and those countries, and they do like require students to study abroad, right? But they have requirement, but the government also like offer them some amount of the tuition.
That's true.
To help them study abroad.
That's true.
And the problem is like if they go to the VSA, those like funding will not exist. Then they cannot get the funding. So that's the problem, because the fact is like the tuition, the cost for the VSA is higher than the normal, right? And the problem for those like students in the developing country, like in the China or other country, Korea, Japan, I think there is like the language barrier, right? And because like, and they have a lot of like studying abroad company already exist, and they have like because I know VSA like don't have that many like employers. Most of them is like the professor from the Spain and a couple like students from the past years, right? Yeah. So I'm thinking about like maybe we can like negotiate with other company already exist, maybe in the like the in China or like in other like developing country, and we can negotiate with them, because I personally from China, and I know my country have a lot of study abroad program. Actually, the cost maybe it's even higher than VSA, you know, but they offer the terrible experience. So I think VSA can you know take the advantages and negotiate with them, and they will like help VSA connect with make the contact for the student. So I think that the best solution is not focus on the developed country, because yeah, like the school always offer some cheap cheap studying abroad. I know it's not, the quantity is not good, but you know, for me, like I think, oh, it's cheap, so
That,
I mean, just go. You know?
everything you said is true. I agree that, and that's why I really don't know that lowering the price will be the answer, because then I'm just competing with this tremendous number of programs that are school-based, where the school is pushing those programs to their students. That's why, you know, part of the problem is I have to reach out to the students directly. There's also, and when you mentioned China, and it's also true with India, there's brokers in those countries that work with the families of the students that could potentially afford to do the program, and they work on a commission. And I haven't done that, but I mean, that's another way of potentially reaching out, I guess, you know, because the cost of the program, my program, for what it offers is actually relatively inexpensive. And if you're going to be in Europe for a month and you're getting most of your meals and all of your transportation within Europe and all these other things, and the activities are all included, if you would add it up, it really is not as expensive based on the length of time as you would think it should be or would be. Yeah. So yeah, I
but again, I would say all of those are good ideas, as long as you give enough details. If you
yes,
think
please. I need them.
Yeah, give the context, maybe even try to talk to them and see if they're interested. If you think that the program should be promoted to parents, a number of teams say here, you know, try to work with parents as opposed to with students. Same thing, maybe try to talk to a few parents and see what happens. And so that will be a much better one. Anyway, we are out of time, but there is one question that several students asked, and I, even though it's not about the challenge, but I feel like, you know, we should ask this you. So several students ask, I will be graduating in a few months from now. I'm thinking about starting my own business. Would you intend to do an own business, or maybe just getting a job at a company first?
I'm a terrible person to ask that question to. Well, doing this company has been an amazing learning experience for me, which is a good thing, because I thought I knew everything and I found out I didn't know anything. I managed a couple other study abroad programs. I mentioned that. One of them is very successful. I managed that program for several years. I took everything they did, except for the things I didn't think they were doing right, made them all better, charged less, and was unable to attract students, even though I basically advertised in the same place and spend the same amount of money as them. And that's what you need to know about business. Business is you cannot quit. You have to be prepared for failure. You have to understand that, you know, you're going to be deterred, and you have to be true to your cause. I've thought about closing this company down every time my wife talks to me, as a matter of fact. and it's been a huge financial bleed for me, but I really believe in the concept, and I think that when it catches on, and I think it eventually will do that, it'll be a great success. But going into business is tough, and I'll tell you, I don't sleep a lot of nights, and I mean, it's a lot of work that you don't anticipate, and it's a lot of hours. It's a lot tougher than going to work for someone else. I mean, I'm a professor. That's what I do during the day, and I've been a professor for 25 years. But this is harder. I mean, it's unexpected. It's stressful. It's keeps you awake at night. You have to try to please everyone all the time, which is not an easy thing to do. And in my case, it's just been a financial, you know, it's been a huge financial commitment, not to mention the time commitment. But if you believe in what you're doing, I think going into business is what you should do. If you have an idea that I mean, you're a business professor too, so that if you have something that you don't think could be replicated, so that there's a barrier to entry, so that everybody else, once you come up with a good idea, can't compete with you. And if you think that you're something new and innovative, then I think it's certainly something you should pursue. That's not to say that in 6 months my wife is not going to get to me and that's going to be the end of it, because my wife thinks I'm too old and I should be retiring and not doing all this. But I truly believe in it. And, you know, and if it's a passion, and this is a passion for me, I never did it for the money. It really wasn't my motivation. Then I think that you should do it. Anybody should do it. And you don't want to have your life full of regrets. And I'll tell you, if I didn't try it, and even if it fails, I'm glad I tried it, because I wouldn't have wanted to go into my old age home not having given it a shot. You know, I don't know if that's a good answer, but that's my answer.
So that 4-hour business week is only in books, but at the same time, it's still worthwhile trying.
Exactly.
Especially before you have family, mortgage, and all that stuff. So I think the cost of failure is low, but experience will be priceless.
Exactly. And one last thing, do you know that the one positive thing I could say about all the failures of this business is I use it in my classes on a regular basis. I mean, I really do. I mean, the textbooks don't really capture everything that's there. And so it's a good experience.
100%, yes. Anyway, we are way over time. I have another meeting in 5 minutes. So thank you so much. I will only add that Mike Tyler has been the most responsive CEO that we've ever had in X-Culture. So if you have any questions that either I didn't read and didn't address, didn't address to the speaker, or if you forgot to, just send an email. You normally get the response the same day. So
and I know you're late, but several groups have asked me for financial information, and a couple of them have been persistent, and I've actually given it to them. So I'm going to actually send it in and let it be posted, because it seems to be important to a lot of people in determining what I should do. So I'm going to send it so you'll have it and post it. So I know that's a lot of questions go back to that. So you'll have it.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you.
To stop the broadcast here. So if you have any more questions, just send an email, and good luck. You have 2 more weeks to improve your project. So this feedback has been useful and will help you do a better job.
Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. Thank you.